Welcome to the Containment Zone. Some anomalies fall from the sky, others arrive in silence. But SCP-1425? It came. As a book. No radiation, no ritual, just text. A self-help book found in a suburban shopping mall in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Its title, Star Signals, Reach Up Toward the Light. Published under the pseudonym Iridescence Press. No registered author, no publishing license, no barcode. It appeared overnight on bookshelves across America. Thousands of copies, no point of origin. At first, no one noticed. Then, people started changing. Reading it made them feel better, more confident, more focused. Then it made them hungry, then obsessive. Then, they began to shed their skin. This isn't a story about madness. It's about belief and what happens when words aren't written by human hands. SCP-1425 first came to the Foundation's attention in late 2013 after a small-town librarian in Minnesota reported a surge of patrons requesting the same book, one she didn't remember acquiring. Star Signals, Reach Up Toward the Light. The cover featured only a pastel-colored starburst and embossed gold lettering. The pages, glossy, clean, filled with vague affirmations. No chapter structure, no page numbers, just passages like, "The sky knows your shape." True forms arrive when you let go of your fear body. You must become translucent to be seen by them. At first, readers claimed they felt uplifted, more social, more in tune. Local health providers noted a trend: improved mood, increased energy, decreased appetite. But then came the side effects: insomnia, rapid weight loss, sunlight sensitivity, compulsive drawing of eyes and spiral symbols. Children began waking up covered in scratches they couldn't explain. One woman locked herself in her garage for 72 hours, covering the walls in crayon with phrases like, "They are coming from above. I want to be bright enough." By the time Foundation agents embedded in the Department of Education flagged the anomaly, over 14,000 copies had been circulated across the continental US. And that's when the pattern emerged. The book was spreading, exclusively in locations with high levels of media exposure: news studios, talk shows, pop culture events. SCP-1425 wasn't just a book, it was a broadcast. The turning point came when a major pop star endorsed Star Signals live on television. Her name was Callie Reyes. Chart-topping, young, untouchable. She held up the book during an interview and said, "It taught me how to be seen by the universe. I finally feel real." Her fan base, million strong, flooded online retailers. Within 48 hours, the book reached #1 in national rankings. But the text was changing. Foundation linguists analyzing recovered copies found structural differences. Page to page, copy to copy. Some were in English, others in languages that don't exist. Phrases bent, altered by exposure to emotional attention. Entire passages shifted depending on who was reading. This wasn't print. This was interaction. And the symptoms intensified. Callie Reyes canceled her world tour after an onstage collapse in Phoenix, Arizona. Footage shows her standing motionless for 43 seconds, then tearing her skin off her arms. Not screaming, smiling. Her security team rushed in. They were too late. She vanished from public life. Her residence was found coated in ash, feathers, and dozens of torn copies of the book, each bleeding from the spine. Her last public statement: "I've almost reached translucency. I can feel them watching. I want to shine." Within a week, 2 more influencers endorsed the book. Within 10 days, 11 separate cult-like gatherings appeared across California, Florida, and Tokyo. each reciting altered versions of the same phrase, "We're ready to be rewritten." The Foundation declared a Class A memetic breach, but by then, it was already everywhere. Not because it was viral, but because everyone wanted to believe it. When Operation Mirrorveil launched, the objective was clear: contain the message, isolate the medium, neutralize the idea. Over 60 task forces were deployed. Publications were seized, print runs were destroyed, digital scans scrubbed from web servers and social platforms. But the damage was already conceptual. Because SCP-1425 wasn't a book, it was a pattern, a sequence of linguistic triggers that adapted to expectation. Its phrases rewrote themselves in response to cultural relevance. The more people read, the more the book evolved. Foundation linguists identified recursive memetic loops embedded in ordinary language. Simple affirmations like, "You are more than your body." "They see you best in the dark." "Reach toward the light." Each line activated deeper cognitive centers, triggering altered brainwave patterns in the hippocampus and auditory cortex. Victims began to hear voices even when the book was removed. One researcher described it as, "like static inside my bones, like someone singing in reverse, but smiling while they do." Language became infected. In one test, a subject read only 5 pages aloud. Within hours, his handwriting had shifted into glyphs that appeared identical to markings found at SCP-1678 and fragments recovered from SCP-073's databanks. None of them matched any known written human language, yet every subject who read them claimed they understood. "They're invitations," said one, "not commands. It's beautiful." Containment escalated to info hazard level Omega. All known copies were to be destroyed. All affected subjects quarantined indefinitely. But the team leading destruction efforts began to hesitate. They reported feeling watched, guided. One handler wrote in her log, "I think it wants us to understand. Maybe that's not a bad thing." She was later found writing new chapters, in her own blood, across the floor of her cell. By the 3rd week of exposure, SCP-1425 no longer functioned as media. It had become a ritual guide, not metaphorical, not spiritual, literal. Readers began staging coordinated alignment events in shopping malls, subway stations, even abandoned schools. These gatherings followed precise patterns: star-shaped diagrams marked with salt or chalk, participants disrobing and chanting in unison, lights dimmed, mirrors removed. One group in Portland attempted to elevate their bodies by ingesting melted plastic and sitting in silence for 12 hours. When retrieved by containment teams, they were still alive, but no longer fully human. Their skin had thinned, stretched, eyes blackened, veins glowing faintly beneath the surface. They hummed the same tone, all in unison, and when asked why, one replied, "We're almost bright enough." Foundation biologists examined tissue samples. Results were inconclusive. The cell structure had begun converting to non-terrestrial crystalline protein strands, unknown to Earth's evolutionary history. They weren't dying. They were becoming something else. And the language was accelerating it. The signal origin hypothesis emerged shortly after. A deep scan of anomalous electromagnetic interference revealed that SCP-1425's original printed phrases, especially the line "reach toward the light," perfectly mirrored a repeating radio burst, first detected by SETI in 1997. At the time, it was dismissed as background noise, uncatalogued cosmic radiation. But now, it matched the book, letter for letter. The Foundation confirmed. SCP-1425 was not written on Earth. It was received, and the question shifted from "what is it doing" to "who sent it" and what happens when the message is complete. As SCP-1425's influence grew, cognition itself began to deteriorate in affected zones. Victims no longer thought in structured language. They spoke in patterns, symbols, tones. Words gave way to melody, grammar to rhythm. They weren't talking, they were broadcasting. Cognitohazard specialists observed the emergence of recursive syntax spirals, verbal feedback loops that cause listeners to enter mild catatonic states within minutes. Security footage from an affected shelter in Missouri showed 3 survivors humming in perfect harmony, tracing spirals onto their own skin with broken fingers. The rhythm was identical to a pulsar signal received by the park's observatory in 2006. An astrological match, mapped into flesh. The body stopped breathing. But the hum continued for 2 hours. At Site 88, an intern tasked with shredding recovered copies began compiling them instead. He stitched together over 70 copies into a wall-sized tapestry of phrases, each cut and aligned like magnetic poetry tiles. It read, "We see you. Your shapes are wrong. You can be more. Melt the form. Shine through." He then removed his eyes with a plastic spoon and smiled. No pain, only light. The final known transmission event occurred at Station Iota 5, a remote Antarctic relay post. One technician, Dr. Anna Rourke, reported static overtaking all Foundation broadcast channels. She described it as a voice too wide to hear all at once. Then she went silent. 3 hours later, every speaker in the station activated at once. The following message played: "We see the minds you made. They are incomplete. Let us finish what you started." Then the power died. Rescue teams arrived 2 days later. They found the building intact, empty. But carved into the floor in concentric circles were 4 words. "We are already inside." SCP-1425 is no longer in circulation. All known physical copies have been destroyed. All survivors of exposure are held in indefinite quarantine, unresponsive, humming. But the signal remains. It appears in dreams, in static, in thoughts that aren't quite yours. Because SCP-1425 was never meant to be read. It was meant to be understood. And once you understand it, you don't need the book anymore. You become the broadcast. You start speaking in patterns you can't explain, drawing symbols you never learned, looking at the sky as if it's trying to remember your name. The Foundation now classifies SCP-1425 as a linguistic infection vector of non-Earth origin. Not just mimetic, not just auditory, but ontological. It rewrites what you are by rewriting what you believe you are. And once the message completes, you stop being human and start being seen, because that's the core of SCP-1425. It doesn't promise salvation, it promises visibility, relevance, existence in a greater mind that's already watching. Thank you for reviewing another anomaly in the Containment Zone. And if you ever find a book that says it will show you the light inside you, don't read it. Don't even touch it. Because when the stars speak again, you might be listening without knowing it.